Hello and welcome back to Let's Play Krusty's Funhouse with me, Mr. Mark Luckable. In the last episode we carried on through World 4. I think I'm getting some deja vu. Hey, World 4 is a long world, alright? And we're now up to, what is this, level maybe 6 or 7? I can't quite tell, but hey ho. Never mind. So, I kind of ran out of time last episode about what I was talking about. Not too good with this post-commentary thing. Never mind. I did want to bring up in today's episode about Simpsons commentaries. But before I do that, let's talk about the game, because I'm about to kick this green block, which will set up a bonus level. You can tell by the music and the fact it cut to another screen, but the purpose of this is quite important actually. You need to do this in the amount of time you have to kick every block, because that will unlock a secret room. So it's all very important. It's not all just fun and games in this funhouse. No, you need to be fast. You need to work fast. Hey, wait a minute. Wasn't that what I was saying all of last episode? Yeah, I was. In some cases, you do need to be fast. Otherwise, the game will punish you permanently. But yeah, I think I actually did this pretty well. Bit of time to spare. It's just about knowing which direction to take. Again, a little bit of trial and error, like I said last time. But as we get to the top, you'll see we will set off the explosion of items. I wish we really did get that many lives, but we don't. I think we just get one. We're going to get another one, don't we? No, I don't get another one. Fine, screw you, game. We do get one at some point, though. We did set off some fireworks back there as well. Which is always good because, hey, although it does, I do notice that the fireworks actually slow down the game a bit. It might just be the emulator, but yeah, it's that's not good when just some little sparkles makes the game slow down. So yeah, let's go to what I was talking about, or wanted to talk about, which was Simpsons commentaries. And this sort of leads on from how I was explaining about knowing quotes and knowing what Simpsons quotes to use and when. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And some of this is down to watching the show, like I said, but also I think that some of it is down to just listening to Simpsons commentaries. And that may seem weird because, hey, you're not actually listening to the show, so why would commentaries help? But I'll tell you why. Commentaries are great. Simpsons DVD commentaries are, but just DVD commentaries in general are pretty great. Stepping away from The Simpsons, things like... Which other commentaries did I really like listening to? Well, you could go for like other animated shows like Family Guy and stuff. I listen to all of those. But talking about just regular films, you could go with the kind of silly ones like Arnold Schwarzenegger doing a commentary for Total Recall, where he was just literally explaining the scenes as they happened. But no, on a more serious note, the DVD commentaries for the Edgar Wright films, so Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, I don't know about The World's End, I haven't listened to that, but I assume so. The Cornetto trilogy, the commentaries for those are really good. For example, the Hot Fuzz one, I think has about 3 different commentaries. One of them is Edgar Wright and Quentin Tarantino just talking about movies, just talking about the movies they love, the directors they love, references they love for, an hour and a half, 2 hours. It's such a good thing to listen to. And as well as that, there's a commentary with Jim Broadbent, Timothy Dalton, some other guys, like all the old men from the film Hot Fuzz. And it's just these men sitting around talking about random stuff. It's so good. And particularly with that Edgar Wright one and Quentin Tarantino one, you get insight into the film. You get insight into their thoughts. And the same applies to The Simpsons. Bringing it back to The Simpsons, the same applies. You get insight into their thoughts, and you get insights into why they picked the lines they did, why they picked writing the lines that ended up on the show. And that is how you start to remember quotes. Typical. Now I'm talking about it, I can't actually think of any, but yeah, they do, because sometimes you find out that a quote you really like is an ad-lib. An ad-lib. So either Dan Castellaneta or Hank Azaria or Harry Shearer or Nancy Cartwright, any of the voice actors, they came up with it on the spot. Sometimes they do that. Sometimes for particular I mean, not very often, but for some parts in the script, it will have just like Homer and Ned. There's one scene in particular where Homer and Ned. Oh, I know what it is. I know what it is. It's where Homer uses the police tape to tape off Ned's front lawn as a prank, as a joke, make him think like something's terrible has happened in his house. And the scene where Homer like tells Ned it's just a joke that was all an ad lib. It was just Hank and Dan talking to each other and just riffing off each other. Well, not really riffing. It wasn't that much to it, but it was all very natural stuff. And it's a pretty funny scene, the way that Homer reacts, and it's all because it's just what they did. And I wouldn't have known that without the DVD commentaries. I would not have. There's no way of knowing. The quality of the DVD commentaries is always changing. I would admit that. Sometimes you can have really good ones. Sometimes you can have ones where there's a lot of silence when they sit and watch the show themselves, and they do joke about that. You know, it's like, we're just watching the show now. We're not even talking about it. And so there's some guests that I don't particularly like. There's some that don't contribute as much. And I guess I should talk about who these people are. So in general, you'll always have the director of the episode, the main animator of the episode, the main writer of the episode. Usually Matt Groening's there. So typically, for example, in an episode from season 6, you'd have Matt Groening, you'd have Dave Merkin, you'd have maybe David Silverman, I think was maybe around that time. He's been on the show forever. So yeah, David Silverman as the animator, or the lead animator. No, director I think he'd be, wouldn't he? I don't know. I'm just talking to myself now. But yeah, you'd have those three, and then maybe sometimes you'd have another writer, like George Meyer. Maybe even, actually no, quite often even, you'd have a special guest. So say if there was a special celebrity voice in this show, they might come along for it. They've had people like Jay Leno with the Krusty one. They've got big movie stars on some of the commentaries, and those are usually a little bit more awkward because, you know, sometimes the movie celebrity doesn't really know what's going on, so they don't really say much. Sometimes they're really good though. It really does. The quality is all over the place, but in general, they're just really, really fun to listen to. If you have that thirst for wanting to know more about the show, and I brought this up actually, in this Let's Play. I said about how I'd like to play most of the Simpsons games just to know what was out there, what was created in the name of the Simpsons. And the commentaries are a perfect way of finding out more. You know, you can find out where the storyline came from. It can be from... They used to do these things called like writer or like story holiday things. I can't remember the actual name, but they used to go away for a long weekend to some kind of camp or hotel place and pitch stories for the next upcoming season. So sometimes they'd come through that. Sometimes I remember hearing Al Jean came up with an episode in a queue at Disneyland. So, okay, it's not the most useful information, but for someone like me that loves a show, every little helps. Something is better than nothing. And a big thing you can get from DVD commentaries, especially for me being a Brit and me being, you know, younger than the show, is you often get to work out and realise a cultural reference or a joke that you didn't understand. And that has been the case for the longest time. Like, ever since I watched the show as a kid, I just watched it because I don't know why I watched it, I just did, and I found it funny. Maybe it was just the way that Homer shouted sometimes, or... It's weird, looking back now, it is weird how... what did I find good about The Simpsons as a kid? Because now, the intelligence of the jokes, you know, the amount of thought that goes into jokes, and the smaller details, and the storylines and the plots, and the character development, that just screams out, that sticks out to me now. And now I can't imagine watching the show without knowing that aspect of it. So as a kid, I don't know why I watched it. It is popular with kids, so it must be, you know, because it's a cartoon, I guess. But But yeah, as a kid, I didn't get any of the references, didn't get anything. Even as I was kind of getting into teenage years, still didn't understand it because it's American stuff a lot of the time. It's American actors, actresses, American adverts, American shows. I didn't grow up watching most of those shows. And now I'm a bit older, I can either go look for the references myself on Wikipedia or there's tons of websites. But a lot of the time they do say it in the DVD commentaries. They say about how maybe a cultural reference hasn't aged well, or why they decided to pick on this particular actor for a joke. And it's getting it straight from the horse's mouth, which I think is quite a good way of getting your information. Who knows more than the people that actually made the show, eh? It's also quite funny that in the DVD commentaries you can get a good impression of, how do I word this? Hang on, words, Joe, words. You get a good impression of the actors and writers' own knowledge of the show. Because the funny thing is, and it's kind of obvious when you actually think about it, but most of the actors, the voice actors I'm referring to, and most of the writers haven't watched the show that they're talking about for that particular commentary since it was made, since it was aired. So, and I think the general time frame of this is that these DVD commentaries were done maybe 10 plus years after they came out, and so you'd hear someone say, a writer say, "Oh man, the last time I watched this is when we made it." So usually they might watch it the night before they do the DVD commentary, but yeah, they don't remember every single thing they do, and they quite often say that the fans know a lot more than they do. Obviously they know the insider stuff, the way it was made and the businessy side of things, but the fans often know more about the quotes and the jokes and the storyline and the characters, which is kind of funny. Especially with the voice actors, you can get this because they each have their own sort of personality. I've found in the DVD commentaries, and if you listen to them, you might agree or disagree with me with this, but I'm going to go through some of them. So Dan Castellaneta, I think, is the most on the ball out of all of them. Obviously, you'd expect him to be. He's like the main one, I guess. Is he the main one? I guess so. If you were to pick a main one, because he's Homer, and he's a lot of other members of the Simpsons family, and the whole show. He seems like the most aware of the jokes and aware of what's coming up in the show, and also like the lines and things. Then you have someone like Yardley Smith, who does the voice of Lisa, and she comes on the show and she's really nice. She seems like such a nice person, Yardley Smith. But when she does the commentaries, you kind of get the impression that she just loves Lisa and that's it. Like, she only really knows about her own character, because that's all she talks about, is how, Lisa is such a good character because she's always fighting against something, and she always keeps going and blah blah blah. She's always talking about Lisa. Maybe that's because she's invited to Lisa-centric episodes to do commentaries, but she doesn't have, like, you can't. I get the impression she doesn't know very much outside of that. Still very nice. Nancy Cartwright does the voice of Bart and others. I don't know. She's not on too many. She hasn't been on that many. She's fine, I guess. Doesn't really say much. The funny one to me. Oh, by the way, Hank Azaria, he's pretty good. He knows his stuff generally. I don't think Harry Shearer's been on a commentary. But the funny one to me is Julie Kavner, who does Marge and Patty and Selma, and their mum Jacqueline Bouvier. Whenever she's on a commentary, she doesn't really talk about the characters. She doesn't really talk about the jokes or the plot. She talks about the technical side of things, like, oh god, am I running out of time again? No. She talks about, like, the technical side of things, like, oh, look at that angle of things, and oh, that's a nice shot. And that's kind of funny because she kind of seems a bit out of it, like she's on drugs. Alright, I'm going to end it there. That's a nice way to end it about Judy Kavner. But in the next episode of Carry On Playing, I will get this timing right at some point. I'm sorry. Until then, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.